Get in there first. Okay. All right, I went ahead and turned the recording on, it's so long. Good on the screen. All right, we'll call the Board Negotiations Committee meeting between Williston Basin number 7 School Board and the Williston Basin Administrators Association, 6:01 p.m. April 23rd, 2025. If we can do a quick roll call for the record, we'll start with you, Mr. Hand.
Mark Henry.
Tyler Hazer.
Meredith Johnson.
Corey Swint.
Seth Thompson. Chris Judge. Right, turn it over to you, Mr. Thompson.
All right, thank you very much. Good to see everybody today and glad that you're here and as Mr. Junt noted, bringing the muscle, so. No, we sent out draft minutes. It was just a little bit ago, so we recognize if you haven't had a chance to go ahead and take a look at those, but whether now or at some point later, let us know if there are any concerns with that. If not, it's our understanding you've got an economic proposal. And we're thinking it'd be good to go ahead and dive into that and see what we have. And, our goal would be to turn around the proposal back to you tonight so we can keep the process moving.
At least. I'm sorry for the small print on the one, but I tried to keep it on the same page here. After passing on, if you want to take a few moments just to look through everything,
Thank you.
then I can answer any questions you have. Some of this, we've talked about some of the day stuff and some of that, and this then ties in with a little bit of that. And so there, you can see, we are asking for a little bit on the base for each year, but kind of keep it there because there's going to be some fluctuation in there, but nope, that's not the email. So like Garden Valley has 180, Lewis and Clark has 256 students. Wilkinson's up around 300, Rickard's at 319. Garden Valley has 14 staff with those 180, Lewis Clark has 18 certified staff, so I get the 256.
We actually have 299 marks, sorry, we have preschool too, right now, so that's our total, and then.
Yeah, but there's a preschool director that
Oh.
oversees the preschool staff, and I believe they hired the preschool staff to maintain that. So what we just asked for from, this is information from Mr. Clausen. Just on the enrolled students in the, under the supervision of the staff, the administrators. So maybe, I mean, this is what he gave me though, sorry. So, yeah, Garden Valley, 180 and 14, Lewis Clark, 256 and 18, Wilkinson, 299 and 24. Rickard, 319 and 22. Then you get up to Missouri Ridge, it's 377 and 29. Hagen's 472 and 32. McVeigh's 438 and 32. And so it just looks like a pretty distinct jump between that, like from the 319 to the 377, the 29 up around the 30. So we just felt that there was, even with the assistant principals, there's more students, more staff, more information. So we thought that there would be a good way to kind of offset that. It's just a little, like allowing that jump a little bit more there.
So who this would apply to right now would be Hagen, McVeigh, Missouri Ridge, and
That's
Sloan.
slow in when it opens.
Okay.
But I'm also guessing though that when slow and opens, it might knock some of the other ones down. Because the hope is that we ease it all up. So, but it also, who knows what's gonna happen with some of the fifth grade out. You know, there's something we can put in there where we can look at that in the future, but yeah, that's, they would eventually be at that point. What else do I have there? We looked at like the head and of the high school, and we just felt it. Like when they were on the 260, just the head, the leadership of that, we just felt like it, we just bumped it up 1% to a little bit on that, you can see there. And then you can see the contract days. We did move the 213 to 216 and added 2%. Part of that was a little bit just more days, but also kind of making sure everybody stays at about the same salary, like total salary, regardless throughout. And then adding a 23rd year, kind of put that proposal in just because we do have an admin that we felt, you know, that is up in that range. And so, and then you'll see we added in a little separate area there because we would like to bring, we're still on that, we'd like to bring in the AD, the assistant AD. And so in the upper right, you can see there, I think his current, or AD's current salary is at 146 something. And so what we did there too is, I think with both of those, I tried to factor about a 1% raise for both of those positions for over the next 2 years. And I know, I can just say, I know from talking with the ADs, and obviously there's other information that we've talked about. That's less than the raise he's gotten in previous years. He's averaged about a 4%, but he'd be willing to take the lower raise in order to become a part of the unit and get a little bit more assured contract. So I know that's a huge priority for those staff. And then that just reflects on proposal 1 here. It reflects a lot of the kind of what we had here and what we talked about. One of it is helping redefine too the central campus principals, so they're not all just principals. There'd be assistants at a level, and then a head who lead central campus. One of them was cleaning up some information on the freshman house summer school high school principal. And then adding in the assistant AD at the assistant area there, and then the head ADs on a year-long contract anyways. So putting it on there, but also having the asterisk that they're on a separate scale. So, but that just determines contracts for that.
Okay.
Does that all make sense?
Is the high school summer school principal the same as the freshman house, or it could be somebody different?
It'd be the same position. If you're doing freshman house, you do summer school
Got
at 226.
Question on the location, salary percentages. So historically, and for the most part, these line up based off of number of days of your contract. If you're a 216 in this case, high school assistant and the central campus assistant, you're in the same category. So shed some light on the central campus head principal staying with the head high school in light of the request to be on a 226 and not a 260.
Well, and we feel because of the days are separated from the positions, that there's a little bit different in there, like the days you do get if you're extended beyond, you get the percentages based on some of the extended days in the contract. But the percentages under the location have more to do with the duties and some of the stuff with that. You know, as the lead principal, you would be in charge of supervising your principal, doing their evaluations, while also maintaining the staff, running the vision and mission of the school. And kind of being the final say in all of it. So that's why it was elevated to a higher level than the others. And then with the days not needed as much, that's where the high school principal with a few more duties and needing a little bit more time gets rewarded for spending or having the full year contract. So there are the two separate areas, the contract days and the location. And traditionally the location has to do a lot more with just some of the outside work along with it, you know, high school assistant principals, I should have counted how many, I mean, I was at every hockey game this year, I'm the hockey guy, so that's, 20 nights that I'm going out for 4 extra hours. So that's why on some of those, it's a higher percentage, with the middle school or the central campus, part of it was, student supervision outside, having larger numbers of students in the building, a large building to roam and try to keep track of. Plus they, attending their extracurriculars after school. So that's traditionally why they have the elevators or escalators in the location stuff. It's just some of the extra duties that are involved, some of the bigger kids, bigger problems. I can't get too much into it, but I had to sit in a 2-hour interview with the FBI today as part of my job. There's things that come up, and that's what the location kind of, that traditionally, that's what I've more held the location fee for, and then the days of doing the job beyond like a kind of a regular schedule, that's where the contract day escalators went. So does that make sense? Or explain at least how it makes sense to you?
The last question I think I had related to kind of the change from the 213 to the 216. So the current agreement essentially allowed assistant, or we're calling the assistant central campus principals, to drop down to a 213, year 2 of the current agreement. Proposing to go from 213 to 216 for the assistant high school, and then 216 for assistant central campus. Any magic to the additional 3 days, I guess, or reasoning behind that?
Yeah, a little bit was, the teachers were on 186. I saw a lot of 216 and other agreements too. The 30 days more than the 186 is 3 weeks before and 3 weeks after school. So it just kind of evened out the number, adding the 3 extra days of that. Part of it too, was asking for a little more of an escalator on the contract days, and that kind of evened out a little bit of, that was a little bit of financial trickery of me trying just to make sure everybody was at least going to make the same total amount of money. I think I did do a little bit there, and part of it was just saying, we will work a few extra days there to help out, and we can, with the flex, hopefully we can work those, in the summer to work stuff out. So giving a little bit back, not, just kind of coming to maybe a middle ground from the 226 to the 213 of instead of the 13 days going to 10, and us as high school admin given a few extra days of, towards it also. So it may not be like the most, I don't know, the most important reason, but it just felt like it was a compromise to some of what was going on. And again, I blame this on how my brain works when I looked at the 213 and there was other 216s and the 186. It just didn't seem the 3 and the 3 weeks on before and 3 weeks after seemed more just balanced out. If that makes sense.
I do have one follow-up now.
Yeah.
So WIA has a proposal on the table, at a 183
Yeah, it's gonna
contract.
turn my brain.
Does that change you potentially to 213 if the board were to go to a 183, or any thoughts to
I'm
that?
on 26 if that would, because then it's putting those 216s a full 10 days less, a week on either side than the 226. So as far as the teachers being there 3 less days, especially because I believe their proposal has those coming out of the middle of the year currently. So I don't think it would affect the work that we would need to do at the beginning and the end of the year, along with those 226s.
Yeah. I didn't even think about the 10 days left, it was just a week on each, but that helps too, that eases my mind.
Thank you.
I would like to see where they came up with 226 and 216, I might have to look into that, just like the 260. I need to figure out why. My brain always thinks why. I think mine I put it's like a 10.5 month. That's 216, I think that's. That's some of this. And the 240 was like 11 months. And then the 260 was 12. So.
Is the assistant AD on a 216 this year, do you know?
He was either on a 213 or 226.
What's the question? We go 228.
228?
Yes.
I don't know where that is. If I would have
229,
known that, my brain would have itched.
228.
Well, and he's a 228 because it was a 226, but because of where his schedule falls, I think he has extra holidays because he's not an administrator, so they get more holidays on an Alabama rep than principals. So.
Threw you for a loop there, didn't it?
Yeah, that's making my brain itch. In talking to him, I think at least the current assistant AD was able to work and complete everything he needed in 216. But that could be negotiable if needed to go to something else that we don't have them on any of the escalators, and that could be something that, I mean, we're willing to talk about a lot of things, honestly, just to kind of see where everybody's at and see what's going on.
We appreciate that. You don't mind?
Yep.
I've got a couple questions regarding the summer school stipend coming out proposal 2. I just want to make sure your proposal this is for any of these folks that agree to supervise. This is under your proposal kind of an optional thing, is that?
Yeah.
And previously, I think. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, that's how I would read that.
Previously, you had identified, your proposal originally was any K through 8 administrator. This one says any K through 12 administrator. Is there,
So I will say that the one of the 8 through 12 or 9-12 administrators said that he had been talked to about being told he was gonna get that stipend. So I was like, oh, then we'll put it in if you were told this by someone, then. Yeah, so it was more of that.
wording matching practice.
And I guess we could. Again, there's. I think there's wiggle room on language and stuff too, to talk. We'd have to go back and look a little bit, but there's always something there, like anyone that. I don't want to speak out of line here, but we can talk about some wording on that if that's a concern. But this is something that I believe a lot of the. Principals that were doing summer school were told they were gonna have, so we're kind of just putting it into. Like originally, we kind of had our own thing, and then we found out that there was like some verbal acknowledgement of getting this, so we just took that verbal and put it into words into the negotiator.
Do you have this in electronic format?
I do.
Would that be something, email? Maybe it's in the Excel format, not like electronic PDF or.
It's in Google Sheets.
Okay,
Excel's been annoying.
that's okay.
Do you want me to send you a copy right now?
Yeah, or maybe just send it to Hermanson, just so we have. Anybody, any further questions or anything? No? I think it might be worthwhile we take a caucus and go back and take a look and. If you text or touch base and let you know when we're ready to work.
This sounds wonderful. I'm going to share that with.
I'm gonna go ahead and turn the recording off. It is, 6:22.
Your Google tag, it says doctor.
Okay, we're back on the recorder. It's 7:15 PM. Right. We had an opportunity to look at the proposals you put forth here tonight. We appreciate the work that you've put in on them. We have a response for you that kind of encompasses all of our previous ones, just to kind of more for a keeping track perspective. I will quickly go through, starting at the beginning, just to go through. I think proposal one remained open. I think you had indicated some preference for your proposal on that. Number two, we had reached, that was a housekeeping type item, we reached tentative agreement. Three, you had previously said you were fine with, this proposal with the caveat that, the days were still kind of open. And we agree with that. So I didn't put a tentative agreement on it, but, that was kind of how we viewed that. 4 and 5 were also tentative agreements. 6, 7, 8, the sick leave piece that we modified there, we were tentative agreement on that. Also on 8, we, with respect to the emergency leave piece there, I think we maybe had mentioned to you at one point that we modified "is" slightly to say, inclement weather. If you wanted that change in that, we would certainly do it. We don't think it's necessary, but, I don't think it's a substantive change one way or the other. I think at the end of the day, it's up to the superintendent's discretion. In terms of the agreement number 9, that was still open, just as you indicated, it's tied to monetary. Let's understand that. We'd had a tentative agreement on the, language regarding the flex for non-student contact days, and that still has to be, we'll put that into a memorandum, but on the back, you'll see kind of an outline of our response to your proposal tonight. We're in agreement with what you brought forward tonight with the following caveats. With respect to the inclusion of the Assistant Athletic Activities Director and Athletic Activities Director in the negotiated agreement, we're not in agreement with that. However, we would agree to include a provision in the Athletic Activities Director's individual contract that we would follow the due process requirements or whatnot to ensure that that position has some of that job security as you've asked about.
So it would follow the North Dakota continuing contract law rather than be an at-will employee.
Yep, not an at-will employee.
For
the
AD
position, not the assistant. And I think part of the thought process there, your current AD, where you have an admin license and, it fits, it could fit within the definition where I don't think the other would respectfully fit. Number 2, with respect to your summer school stipend proposal, we're in agreement with this, with the exception of changing the, administrator that agrees to supervise. It would be, well, maybe I should have said it differently, Michelle. What we're saying is if you're assigned to do it or whatnot, it's a requirement to do it rather than a decision.
So it's something like any administrator that is assigned.
Yeah, that would have been
Coverage of a supervised summer school program.
Yep.
And just, I think from when we look at student achievement across the district and trying to move the needle, we really feel that summer school is a vital part of that, particularly when we're getting a lot of those, tier 3 or tier 2 students that really need the most help trying to get them caught up. So,
I think we're all on board with that. We do want what's best for students and to try to help with some of the regression. We just want to make sure that if we're going to be doing that, we just, there's some extra duties and so.
We as a board recognize that. And as a committee, I think it's extremely important to recognize that. We just want to make sure that we see in there that we're all coming together on this and making sure each building is doing it.
Moving on. With respect to location salaries, your proposal had identified that the elementary, plus 350 would be paid at 28% for that location piece. We were at 27 in that. The head central campus principal would be paid at a 32% adjustment rather than 36 as proposed. And we would reduce the 216-day contract increase that you had set at 6% to 5%. With those tweaks, we would be on board with what you provided here. Yes, I would just say from the outset that we appreciate the reasonableness of the proposal and the, recognition of, where the current contract sits and all of those sorts of things.
Okay, can you give us
Yeah.
a minute to talk, Christie?
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the recorder off at 7:21.
We'll try and be quick. Because the goal is always to be done by 7:30.
Good time.
I mean, wow, yeah, I guess.
So after talking over and looking through everything, I think we're very close here. The only thing we'd like to do is just two quick questions and then just something here. One, this admin proposal one where you rejected, but agree to include a provision. Is there some way that could be like a memorandum of understanding that was just followed through on? Like, just to make sure like, hey, this will be happening as per,
Oh, yeah,
like for the 80s contract?
you'd like a little bit more than a paragraph.
Yes,
Yeah, no,
just
well,
like a memorandum of understanding that although they're not gonna be covered, they would be
absolutely.
signing something in their agreement that places them with continuing contract law.
Well, and it'd be for the one position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the 80
Yep.
position.
Yes.
No, I do think, you know, obviously this is something for the superintendent and the school board, if that position were to open up. You know, having requirements of, that could be something you look at, and then maybe it's something we could talk about in the future too. But we feel comfortable as long as there's like a memorandum of understanding that that's gonna follow through. We're okay with the language of this first part, as long as we've got that. I'm gonna say right now, we do, the proposal to from changing that, just some better language, like you said.
Yeah.
We think that would be a reasonable request. It does include the. This one. The stipulation that if they're beyond their contracted days, it'd be the daily rate. That's also. Want to make sure that was part of that also.
If the supervision shows outside the industry contract is gonna figure we'll see their average daily rate.
Yeah, I think we had,
So
That's also
Yeah.
good.
So this is, yeah, just
one
one
of
of
the
that
things we
language.
were proposing to change was striking that phrase and replacing that with the word shall.
Okay, or some sort of
Yeah,
like
we were,
assigned.
yeah,
The location salaries that plus 350, that's reasonable. I think the 27 is reasonable. This head central campus. We're fairly certain that that's gonna be something that we're good with. We just want to bring it back to our group to talk real quick and have a little powwow about. Same with the contract increase, although I think it's reasonable. We all talked, we thought these were all reasonable adjustments coming to a compromise and that everybody can live with. So we really feel like at the next meeting, we could probably sign off on everything. But we do feel like we have to bring it to our members just to have a little vote and talk it out in case they had questions. But other than that, I feel like we pretty much agree with almost everything and are ready to move forward.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that we were doing? So,
okay.
and then we'll run the next meeting.
Yeah, you're past 7:30.
The goal.
That's
7 minutes though,
Yeah,
We'll aim higher next time.
feeling good.
okay.
We'll make up some minutes of the next one.
You don't have to use the full 2 hours.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make up any.
It depends on if you wrote that, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and
Yes.
turn this off then. 7:38.